Hello everybody, I hope everybody's doing well. I'm Katie Knight and welcome back to Can You Put Me on Guest List. Now, it's kind of a strange week here in Ibiza. As most of you already know, this week should have been IMS here in Ibiza. It would have been the first time that it was held at Destino, but unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, IMS was moved to 2021. I feel like we're all really feeling it this week. I've seen a lot of people posting memories from past editions of IMS and others posting pictures with friends or colleagues that they were supposed to be meeting here this week. IMS has been missed by us all over the last few days. I think we can all agree with that. And it's a massive highlight of the year for our industry. But unfortunately, like every event in the world right now, it had to be moved to next year. But hopefully in this next podcast with Ben Turner, who is one of the co-founders of IMS, a flood of good memories from past editions will come to you, as well as some really interesting insights and thoughts on the current status and also on the future of the dance music industry.
You know, to just think it will operate through the clubs is a bit naive, but we've also got to be very careful that we protect the ecosystem. And that's really the big learning from all of this, is that, you know, we're all being damaged in many ways, but we've all got to come through this together as a community and trying to rebuild some of that, you know, special electronic music community spirit that you would have felt at IMS this week. And a lot of that, I think, has been lost in the huge explosion and the kind of quite unsustainable momentum and growth that the industry experienced recently.
As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has already had a huge impact on the global community. But we will get through this. We will all get to come together and celebrate our industry at IMS in 2021. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay positive, and I hope you enjoy this IMS special with Ben Turner here on Can You Put Me on Guest List. Ben, hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
Likewise. Been too long.
It has. Do you know what? Funnily enough, today I got a Facebook memory moment that popped up, and it was with a picture of you just when I was announced that I was going to do host some of the IMS. Today would have been the day that we were all together, you know, with the whole industry celebrating what we do. So it's this week would have been the week. So it's bittersweet, but I understand the weather is beautiful in Ibiza, which would have been, for our new venue in Destino, would have been incredible. So that's equally sad, but is what it is. I think next year, how good it's going to be when we're all together then. It's going to be like double the excitement and double everything. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I think that's where our focus is now, is to try and really, you know, absolutely nail next year's IMS, because I think everyone's going to need it in a big way. So that's where we're putting our energy right now.
Yeah, definitely. IMS was actually launched in 2007 during a moment of crisis for the electronic music scene as well. What do you think it was back then that helped carry on pushing the industry forward? And what do you think it is that we need now during the crisis that we're living at the moment to carry on pushing it forward?
Yeah, it's a good observation. You know, I remember, our justification was that we felt like the industry that we'd loved and had had a big growth pre-millennium was suffering badly. And so we just tried to get our friends and like-minded brains into the room. I don't think any of us ever thought it was going to last 13 years. And the sort of success of the first year just propelled us to keep doing it. And that kind of happened every year after that. You know, we all have other jobs. It's not our main full-time focus. So it's always been a bit of a labor of love for us. But you know, it gave people a lot of positivity, a lot of wisdom. There was so much good that came from that first year of IMS. And when I think back to then, and I look at even Pioneer, who are our partner, you know, how kind of sort of naive they were in the industry and unconnected they were in the industry. And, you know, they kind of grew with us. And I think we've seen the whole industry sort of grow in that time frame to kind of crazy heights. So to see it all come crashing down again, because of factors completely out of our hands is very sad. But at the same time, I think we're all taking lots of learnings of, well, why didn't we get this fixed 2 years ago, or why didn't we have this strategy put in place for a situation like that? So I think if there's something that comes out of this when we do all reconnect, I think we've all got to understand that this could be our future. This could be a continual kind of process of things stopping and starting, and that we all need to have we need to build a more robust business for electronic music, because right now DJs are suffering, promoters are suffering, everybody pretty much is suffering in some way. And there's no sign that we're just going to bounce back to kind of how we used to be. So
that was actually going to be one of my next questions. I think everybody at the moment's kind of wondering what's going to happen next. Do you think that things will eventually go back to how they were, or do you think that after this there will be a lot of changes in the way that we consume music and attend events?
Well, I think there is a chance that social distancing is kind of our new reality, that even if we are allowed to go to venues and travel and gigs and festivals, but all of that will be done under a new world of social distancing, and that could be something we all have to get used to. Capacities being reduced, how we travel being very, very different. So I felt a long time ago, like 2 months ago, that this will all rebuild locally, and it will be back to kind of the scene as I knew it in the early to mid 90s, when most DJs made most of their revenue or their business kind of in their home territories, and were able to drive to gigs, and every now and then they'd fly to Amsterdam, or if you were really lucky, Germany, or maybe even Japan.
Yeah.
Now that's just become so normal for everybody. So I do think it's going to have to rebuild that way. I think there will be quite a lot of guerrilla activity going on, and people putting on events in crazy places. We've already seen the drive-in scenario, which is kind of a bit laughable, but
yeah, what do you think of that?
The video I had my head in my hands, but you know what? People are being entrepreneurial, and that was kind of the spirit of how we all began, driving in cars to gigs, to raves. But no, listen, I think people are being very creative. There's people putting events on in country houses, and to just think it will operate through the clubs is a bit naive. But we've also got to be very careful that we protect the ecosystem, and that's really the big learning from all of this, is that we're all being damaged in many ways, but we've all got to come through this together as a community, and trying to rebuild some of that special electronic music community spirit that you would have felt at IMS this week. I think is really important, and a lot of that I think has been lost in the huge explosion and the kind of quite unsustainable momentum and growth that the industry experienced recently.
Yeah, definitely. I also think that right now is a really good time for us all to, both personally and professionally, look back on everything that we've achieved, kind of see where we're at, and maybe figure out what it is in our industry that either needs to be changed or adjusted or reset in a way to carry on growing the industry in a positive way. What aspects of the industry do you think do need to be changed for us to carry on growing healthily?
Well, I think the big problem is the monetization of streaming, and the kind of the way the money is being divided, and kind of playing into the hands of the big technology platforms, who profess to have a care for our culture, but actually deep down, do they really? And I think we've got to protect the DJs, we've got to protect the creators of the music being played. And so much of the streaming you're watching, and people don't realize this, but so much of the streaming people are watching is unlicensed and unmonetized. And it's the big thing that IMS needs to help tackle, but also like AFEM, the Association for Electronic Music, is working really hard to try to gather momentum to try and help correct this. But it's going to take a lot of people being quite brave to maybe pull off some of these platforms to really kind of make a stand. And then everybody's torn between promotion versus ethics. But as a community, I think we need to pull together, and we need to try and help resolve these. So that's the big one, and it's in everybody's faces right now, because streaming is not going to just disappear because clubs are back open. This is part of our scene now. People are quite enjoying watching this stuff at home, clearly. So how can we make that A, look better, and B, get people paid fairly and properly? So that's a huge one for everybody.
Obviously, the topics that we obviously thought we were going to be talking about this year at IMS are probably definitely not going to be the same as what they're going to be next year now. What could you predict will probably be some of the topics that we're going to have to discuss as a community together, apart from obviously the one that we've just spoken about?
Yeah, I mean, I think monetization is the big one. Education is key. Obviously a lot of people are moving to online for educational, instructive classes, and I guess one of the big ones is our community kind of calling out its own community for trying to help tour managers, trying to help the artists themselves. Like, we've become paralyzed as a culture. People are scared to do anything. And, it's just, I think there's a lot of people pretty frustrated right now that as a scene, we're kind of almost going against each other rather than supporting each other. So I think that the sort of ethics of what we all stand for is really a question here. And so I think that's a big one. Climate crisis was our big topic this year. We had Brian Eno lined up, and I think that's all connected to all of this. So that will be a huge discussion for us. And interesting talking to She Said So and Andrea, who are obviously are big partners of ours. And Andrea said something very, very astute, which was everything going online has just completely kind of shone a light on how bad the sort of gender parity situation is, and the general diversity situation, because it's highlighted more by all of these streams where people are not looking at balanced lineups or really thinking about what they're curating, and so it's almost put a microscope on just how far we still have to go with all of that kind of work. So I think that will continue to be a big topic. And mental health has been a big thing for IMS for the last 3 years. I mean, that's something that everybody is in some shape or form kind of probably suffering from, whether they admit it or not. But all of our sort of sanities are being pushed to the extremes right now by this kind of, by sort of self-quarantine and as Steve Lawler just called it, we're under house arrest, so.
When you're going to decide what the topics are for each IMS, how do you kind of work out what the topics are going to be? Do you kind of start from the end of one IMS and work through it throughout the whole of the year, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to sort of keep a running list of topics, as they cross my desk, if you like, but also stuff that I might read about, or soliciting insight from attendees. But I think what's really changed with IMS in recent years has been opening up to groups like She Said So, and the new energy that's come in through people like Indo, who've won the New Visionaries contest, and AFEM, and now Bye Bye Plastic, and really working with partners to really find out what are the burning issues in their world. So I think in the first 10 years we very much kind of dictated everything, and now we've opened it up a lot more as we've got older. I think we've needed to make sure that the new generation are coming through, and hence working with people like Jaguar, who's now on Radio 1. She sends me lists of like 100 ideas, and I'm like, my God, she could just run this whole thing herself, and it's all really exciting, fresh thinking. And so we're really good on the sort of, I guess, the more 360 kind of bigger picture type stuff in a way, just because we've seen this industry go through ups and downs from the beginning. But I think we've become a lot more democratic in our process, and I think people appreciate it more. I think the last few years IMS has felt a lot younger and a lot fresher and a lot more like it's for everybody, and that was really taking some criticism from people like Andrea, who loved what we did, but was like, you do realize that this happens or that happens, and I'm like, God, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of improving, and I think we've hit a really important landmark as we hit 2020. I'm 45, the partners are all similar ages, if not older. And do we want to be doing this for another decade? Do we want IMS to be here in 10 years' time? And we decided we do, but we need to make some changes to get to that point. And this year was the start of that. So it's a real frustration able to kind of express that to people with the actual event.
I'd actually read somewhere that it was kind of a year of kind of resetting and changes as well. I think that was your quote that you'd said, right?
Yeah, it was the start of a process. I mean, it can't happen overnight, but I really felt with the venue change, I mean, just going to Destino just felt like such a necessary move, and the venue was so well received. We'd sold the entire hotel out, which we've never been able to do that in 13 years. And that was before we'd actually announced any content, which showed you a lot about people's trust in IMS. So, we feel really, we were walking into it feeling so good and positive about the future. So, we'll bring it all back together for next year, and, hopefully we'll all be together in May next year. But, yeah.
We will be. Get it out there.
Yeah.
What was the first IMS like? What were some of your main topics? Can you remember?
Well, I remember David Levy doing a talk about the opportunity in India. Tom Middleton made a track from beginning to end in front of the audience. And I get confused because the first IMS, we shared it between two venues. We started at Zaro day one, and then we couldn't get the hotel all 3 days, so we had to split hotels. And then when we moved, I remember there was the big topic. Again, I can't remember exactly what it was about, but there was a whole debate about independents versus majors. And Jason Ellis, who's one of the best A&R guys in the business, stood up and said, "Shall I just leave the room? You guys clearly think you don't need major record labels." And 4 years later, he'd signed Swedish House Mafia, David Guetta, Deadmau5, the whole lot, Avicii, and
wow.
So, and then at the time we were, having debates about the DJ Mag Top 100, and it got really, really heated, that talk, about the validity of why we need such a thing. But 13 years on, I don't think we really even acknowledge stuff like that anymore. We're going much deeper, much more personal, much more into the sort of human potential world of creativity and still dealing with big issues, but I think people want a more rounded experience, and hence the introduction of the wellness platform Arete and things like that. So, we're going through a journey ourselves, and people are coming along for the ride, which is great.
When you first started, how many people more or less attended the first edition, and how many attend it now?
Yeah, I think it was 100 people, like maybe 75. Something like that. And then with the media and the press, it was like 100, 150, I can't remember. But now it's more like 1,200 people who come. So it has grown a lot. And in the early days, we used to say IMS is designed to be really small and all about the intimate experience. And we kind of shifted that as it succeeded and started to grow. But we still think it could grow more. We still feel there's a lot of the industry who, maybe just go to ADE or something. I think we offer a very different experience. And I love ADE. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year. So, but yeah, I think we still feel there's opportunities to grow more. But what's amazing has just been seeing some of the people who've been there all the way from year one. And we've seen all of those people grow and their companies grow and their careers grow. So it's been amazing to sort of chart the industry's growth through the lens of what we see.
Yeah, that must feel really amazing, seeing people like from 1 year and just see how they grow and their company grows with them at the same time. It must feel really good, and be able to catch up with them every single year to see how they're getting on and what's next.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to take any IMS credit for that, but I do. But there are, some amazing deals have been done at IMS. I know they have, and I see them every year, and I kind of figure out, I know what that's about, and it's quite funny to watch. And being a manager myself, you can't help but get drawn into that stuff. So, but no, I mean, I'm very proud of the connections that have been made through IMS, and some seriously big ones. Like people, full investment, companies being bought, schools being opened in China and India, all things that happened at IMS in some shape or form, and that's always, I guess, been one of the things I've loved about this industry is the connectivity, and I've never been too protective over connecting people. I've always been, if I gain nothing from it, I've still enjoy seeing things grow, and that's what IMS has always been about. It's been about us sharing what we know and the people we can get to and the people we can bring into the community, and that's that's the whole spirit of a summit like that, you know.
Yeah. One thing I always really love at IMS as well is seeing people come from so many different countries around the globe. Sometimes you just don't realize that there's so many people in so many different parts of the world that work in this community as well. Are there any certain countries that you feel like a lot more people are starting to attend from as our industry is growing globally?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, the American side may be obvious, but, you know, it was always a difficult weekend with it being the big Detroit weekend in America. So we never had a huge amount of Americans coming, but that's really shifted now. India, China, places like that. You know, we did a lot of work ourselves with IMS in Asia. You know, we ran a summit there for 5 years, and I think we stopped doing that and felt we should try to make everybody come to us rather than the other way around. And that strategy has actually worked. Cool. Middle East, you know, the scene there is really interesting and growing, and yeah, Latin America we could probably do with some more, but it's such a big journey and expensive and stuff, and the scene there is quite hard in places. But yeah, generally it feels very, very global, and that's probably the joy of it. And I always love the night before when a lot of people arrive early, and there's always like a big dinner of people, unofficial dinner where people have just jetted in from all over the world. And you know, obviously that's something we have to think about with the climate crisis and how the world looks going forwards. And being a conference, we're encouraging everybody to travel. So stuff like that we all need to be thinking about. But it's the international nature of it is in the name. That was always the whole point, you know.
Yeah. Do you have any of like your favorite or most memorable IMS moments? And I know there's probably a lot of them, but is there any that really stick out? Any of the panels or anything that's ever been said or anything like that?
I mean, I think Nile Rodgers, who came back a second time because he just couldn't fit his life into a 1 hour conversation. I mean, that there were people crying in the room that day. I mean, that was so powerful. You know, he'd just recovered from cancer. He just announced at IMS that he was on the new Daft Punk album, as did Giorgio Moroder the same day. It was like, wow, all of this came out of the summit in terms of the news. And yeah, just the feeling towards that man at IMS was super impactful. You know, I think there's been some very visionary talks from people like Mark Geiger at WME. If you look back at his opening keynote 5 years ago, where he talked about the future of our industry after the explosion, it was very telling, and he was kind of right about nearly all of it. And then some of the stuff we've done in America has been amazing. I mean, IMS Engage was a different format, but it was about putting people together from different cultures. And Seth Troxler interviewing Chuck D from Public Enemy. I mean, just on paper, you had to see that talk.
Yeah.
You know? And we did a series of those. Guy Gerber with P. Diddy, and Steve Aoki with the founder of Instagram, and Diplo with the founder of Instagram, and Steve with the founder of YouTube. You know, really interesting cross-cultural conversations. And probably the craziest thing was the talk around Diplo and his manager having a fight in the middle of the talk with another manager, and chairs flying around the room.
Really? I've never seen that.
somehow that never made it on video.
No.
And that was like, we made like major headline news all around the world that, you know, Diplo was still a big deal then. He's huge now, obviously. But, you know, but it just highlighted the kind of the tension and the kind of passion that is there. I mean, taken to an extreme, but yeah, it was like being at a boxing match where it kind of tips into the crowd. It was pretty wild. So
what did you do? Did you get involved, or did you just stand back?
You know what, I don't think, I actually wasn't in the room at the time. It was and everyone just came running in saying, you know, you can't believe what's just happened. And I walked in and all the chairs had been separated, and it was kind of hilarious, really. But that was, Pete Tong always joked that was our new music seminar moment, which, for those who don't know, there was a conference in New York which inspired Pete and myself particularly as the IMS partners, because we were really following it, and Pete was there. But it took place in the early 90s, and I remember reading about it as a young journalist at the time, and Derek May stormed out, walked off a panel mid conversation out of kind of anger to how sort of typical white industry men were sort of talking about Detroit music. And the panel was called Wake Up America, You're Dead. And really controversial, and Derek stormed out, and it became very famous for that moment. So we always joke that was our kind of new music summit. That was our moment. I should pick something more positive, but you know,
that's still a good moment.
I take the passion as a positive. But no, and then just some of the entrepreneurs we had early, like Blaze from Boiler Room, which was an interview I did, which I really enjoyed. And he says people always ask him about that interview, and you know, there's been some good moments.
Do you like doing the interviews yourself?
No, I hate it. I was a journalist for 15 years, and when we started IMS, I was really eager to do as many of them as I could, and I did David Guetta and Sven and all kinds of things. And I think somehow, weirdly, as I've got older, I've sort of shied away a little bit. And you know, I even half an hour before talks now, I jump in, and I get Mark Netto this year jumped in half an hour before because I just didn't want to do it. So somewhere along the lines, I lost some confidence or something. I don't know, but
just prefer to watch than listen.
Well, IMS is really stressful. It's definitely not at the point where I sit back and enjoy watching it unfold. Like, I'm deep in the middle of it, and I think if you've got a talk with, you know, a legendary artist or a big industry name, it's literally on your mind the entire day. So I don't relax, and I'm stressed, and I don't think I'm very relaxed when I'm doing the interviews as a result. So yeah, that kind of side of it is gone. And you know, when you got Pete Tong as a partner, I mean, come on, like just throw Pete in the room. No one does it better than Pete.
The voice of God.
Yeah. So that was great to have him, and yeah.
There's obviously so much that goes on during the whole week of IMS, the Legends dinner, the celebration at the end at Dout Villa, the finale, then there's yoga. There's so much happening. What is your favourite part of IMS?
Well, definitely the release of Dout Villa is that's what it's there for. You've had 3 days locked in a room. Well, not locked in a room, but it feels like it sometimes, you know, kind of, you know, and I think everybody needs to, you know, it's really interesting you asked that question, because it actually mirrors what we're going through now with COVID-19, which is to just sit here as I do 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day, some days, answering emails, doing calls and meetings. You know, it's great. I love it. But the balance of that with the actual enjoyment of hearing people play, being in an environment, the community aspect of what we do, the networking aspect, whatever you want to call it, that is a massive part of who we all are and what we do and love and enjoy. You know, I remember bumping into you at Extrema in Belgium last year and having the most amazing, fun couple of hours listening to DJs that we love. And it's like, that moment, those moments are really important. And without that right now, I think we're all suffering. So Dout Villa, kind of a similar thing, is 3 really serious, intense days, but IMS would be nothing without this beautiful celebration at the end of what Dout Villa is. So that's probably still all of our favourites. Danny, Mark, Simi and Pete, Dout Villa's like the celebration of everything. The Legends dinner has become, you know, legendary. You know, the Sven Baith won last year for Javier from Mambo was also epic. And this year, I don't know if I should say who it was meant to be.
Oh, are you loud?
Well, yeah, because we're definitely going to, you know, we're not going to be like those promoters who don't rebook the same lineup. We're going to, we were due to honour Simon Dunmore from Defected,
amazing,
which I think would have been a massive celebration and support what he's done as an independent label, coming out of a major, kind of again through that trajectory of our lifetime, IMS's lifetime, would have been really special. And not many people know this, but IMS was actually Simon Dunmore's idea.
Really?
Yeah, he kind of suggested it to the partners and just said, I don't want to be involved, but I think you should go and do it. And that's kind of what happened.
Oh,
so,
wow, that's really interesting.
So I think the least we could do is kind of give him something back. And yeah, I remember I asked him, myself and Danny asked him during the summer if he would be a willing recipient, and he got very, very emotional, and I was like, wow, that, it's a dinner for 300 friends, but the fact that it meant that much to him really showed me the sort of power of the good of what we do, because there's nobody else really out there doing those kind of moments or celebrating things in that way. So don't shout that too loudly, but we will announce him very soon as the dinner in 2021.
Oh, that's so nice. What an honor. Just having so many people there. I remember I went to the one last year with Javier from Mambo, and I don't even know him, and I was so emotional.
Yeah.
I was like, this is
you feel it in the
special. You do, yeah. Really, really special.
Totally.
And just to finish off, obviously the whole situation right now, it's been a struggle, as we were talking about before, for nearly everyone. It's affected us all in some kind of way, and it's been very hard for a lot of people on our mental health. Illnesses, self-isolation, not being able to see your family, your friends for a really long time, financially, obviously. What advice could you give somebody that is going through a hard time at the moment, is finding it difficult to cope, or is around somebody that's finding it difficult to cope at the moment?
Yeah, well, it's a heavy question, but I mean, firstly, everyone is going through it. Like, doesn't matter how successful they are or whatever your perception is of their position in life. Everybody on every level is going through some form of it, I believe. I have really positive days and I have really, really down days. And I think we all feel it around the world, and it's partly dictated by what we're seeing and reading on the news. So, I think we're all in this together. I think really people always talk about men being the issues of not sharing their feelings and thoughts, but there's never been a better time to share how you feel with people that you care and love. I did a Zoom today with an artist I used to work with 10 years ago, and it was just, it was like talking to him 10 years ago, just continued from where we were. And it was amazing to just reconnect with people you do care about. And so I think, talk to people around you, just try and find I think I said this yesterday, one of the things I think that's really important is that people come out of this with a slightly different rhythm to how they maybe live their life, and really analyze what you do every day and think about what you could do to give yourself some time. And I sit here for 12 hours working, but I go for a walk in nature. I swim. I do whatever I can to try and stay healthy. And you've got to get that balance of work and nature and somehow human connectivity right. So yeah, I think really analyze what you're doing. Meditation, I think, has been helping a lot of people through this. However seriously you practice it, even if you can't actually meditate or you think you can't, just sit still for half an hour a day and get deep in your thoughts and in a good way, and just give yourself some space and time and balance. I'm doing my hardest to do that. I had a baby 6 months ago, so I'm kind of secretly enjoying this time, because normally I'd be in Ibiza now for 2 weeks, but I haven't seen my parents. My parents have met my new son once, and that's now starting to get quite hard. So we're all going through something in some level.
Yeah, definitely. But things will get better.
Absolutely.
Things will get better.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you so much for your time, and I really hope I get to see you soon.
Yeah, likewise. And thanks for your continued support, and sorry we're not all together this week, but next year. It's going to be so good next year. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.